So in our second video, we're going to look at legal representation, which is really called the certification process. So we're going to explore two questions. Why do workers want to be unionized, and how do they go about joining a union? So according to CUPE, some of the key reasons why people want to join the union include the increased wages, and there is evidence that suggests that being a member of a union does result in a higher average wage. That there's equity, so because you can see what the rules are, there's equity in terms of how everyone's treated. Unionized workers have greater access to pensions and benefits than non-unionized workers. That the language in a collective agreement provides job security to the membership, and that a focus on health and safety can create a safer workplace. The collective agreement also will address things like the hours of work, and so there's greater predictability in how many hours you'll get. And also the union supports education and training, and so through the union you can develop your skills, and they may also negotiate some language into the collective agreement, so the company helps to support your education. In Nova Scotia, there are 5 basic steps to certification. It's a complex process, but here's a simplified explanation. So the first step is where the worker contacts the union and meets with a union organizer to talk about some of the reasons why they think becoming unionized would be a good idea. Then the workers start to sign cards applying for membership with the union and giving the union authorization to represent them in negotiations. Now the key thing is, if 40% of the people eligible to be in the bargaining unit sign these membership cards, then the Nova Scotia Labour Relations Board will hold a vote to see if all the workers are interested in joining the union. So this is a secret ballot vote, and anyone who's in the bargaining unit can vote either for or against the union. And if a majority of workers, so you need 50% plus one person to cast a ballot in favor of the union, then the union is certified. Then the next step is for the union to start the process of negotiating the first contract with your employer. Now that's a real simplified explanation, and one of the things that's in legislation is the definition about unfair labor acts, and this particularly is important during certification. So an unfair labor act is an action that can be taken by the employer or by the union that takes away the individual's decision-making right. So the government wants each of these employees who is deciding whether they want to be part of the union to be making that decision themselves, not to be frightened into making a decision either by the employer or union. So what are some of the ways that that management might unduly influence? And I like this acronym of SPIT. So the first sort of category is SPY. So if management is conducting surveillance to try and see who's engaged in organizing the union or who's supporting it, and then tries to discipline those people, that's an unfair practice. If during the organizing drive the management group starts making promises to improve working conditions, that is unfair. If they start to intimidate, so they fire employees for union activities, or they visit employees' homes and try to convince them not to join, or if all of a sudden senior people are showing up at the workplace before the vote to try and convince people not to vote or to vote against the union. And finally, threats, and this one we've seen Walmart particularly using, saying that, listen, if you vote for the union, that's fine, but we're closing the store, or if you sign a card, you're going to get disciplined. So SPIT, remember that acronym. The union can also get involved in some unfair labor practices, and the main one is trying to recruit employees to sign membership cards while they're at work and during working hours. I mean, they're being paid by management to do something, not to talk about the union, so that would be unfair labor practices. So my question to you is, have you ever experienced a certification drive, either from the management or the union perspective? Personally, I haven't. I was a member of a union, but that union was in place and it was a requirement of my employment that I be part of that union. So I'm interested in finding out, what's your experience with union membership been?